Hey Heart Healers, welcome to episode 5 of our Heal the Hurt podcast. I am your host William Samuel as always, and today we have two special guests on the show for a live interview. We have Jermaine Jones and we have Ben Swift. The reason I brought these two on today is because both of them have undertaken quite a significant fitness challenge to raise awareness in the realm of mental health, and it sort of aligns with the purpose of this podcast. So they are here today to share a little bit about their backgrounds, their lives, and the quest that they have taken on. So Jay, just give us a little bit of background about you, where you're from, what you do, and how long you've been here.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the UK, Corby, Northampton, then London. I've been in Australia around 6 years now. Travelled Asia like most people do, Southeast Asia, Thailand and everything like that. And then ended up staying in Sydney with work. Plus I didn't want to go back to the cold weather of England as well.
No one does.
Yeah, so so 6 years later I'm still here, still loving the sunshine. Even though it's winter today, it's beautiful. I'm more from a bodybuilding background, I guess, like Fitness First and those type of places. Yeah. I've done a little bit of cycling years ago, but nothing like crazy.
Nothing as crazy as what you're about to do.
Nothing as crazy as what we're about to do, yeah. And then, I guess sort of joined the CrossFit club, and then now moving into this challenge of like trying to cycle around Australia. I say trying to, we're going to do it.
That's important terminology, yes.
Yeah, cycling around Australia next year, which is the big one.
And we'll just point out here as well, I forgot to mention at the start, so combined they're doing 14,000 kilometres around pretty much the circumference of Australia, the whole perimeter of Australia, so significant for sure, 100%. And Ben, what about yourself? Where are you from? How long you been here? What's your story?
So I grew up and lived in the Lake District for 90% of my life, and then moved over to Cork, was there for a year, and then from there left to go travelling, slightly different to Jay. We went east, went to South America, travelled around South America, Fiji, New Zealand, and then ended up on the beaches of Sydney. Was here, not a lot of money to our names, as I say, and tried to go from there really. Stayed here with work, managed to get some sponsorship through work, and don't really want to look back, to be honest with you. So I'm an architectural technologist. It's basically communication through drawing. So I do that. In terms of my fitness background, it's started off with sort of bodybuilding, as lots of people get into, and then about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5-4 years ago, I joined a CrossFit gym here in Sydney, and from there moved into powerlifting and weightlifting, and from there I hit the goals that I wanted to hit, and looking for a new drive really. That's where this was born out of, I suppose, which is there's a hell of a drive to sort of get behind.
For sure. It's a definite contrast in physical activity compared to both of your backgrounds as well.
Yeah, we're definitely not built for cycling, but we both sort of share that, like, we want to this big challenge. There's this part of us that wants to like push ourselves to the maximum like limits mentally and physically. So this cycling is gonna hopefully achieve that. Take it off the list.
100%, man, for sure. I can only imagine. Like, I used to cycle, not a lot, but I have cycled in my younger years, and that's fair. Yeah, fair going.
Tough work.
Yes. So Jermaine, obviously I know you. It was the first time we've actually met.
Yeah, through Facebook and stuff. Yeah.
I know you through obviously nightlife industry, Sydney. Yeah. So you said you're a plumber by trade. Yeah. So do you do plumbing as your full-time work, and then obviously I know you run a couple of other businesses outside of this, but what's your kind of...
So plumbing is my full-time job. I'm sponsored through that, so that's one of the main things what's kept me in the country, which I'm grateful for. But I'm just kind of have this creative bug, so music, DJing myself, producing, running parties as well, clothing brand, do a little bit of work with this Sydney Children's Hospital as well, with like their art program there and stuff, like trying to help them out. I just like to keep myself busy. That probably comes back to the mental health thing as well, just trying to keep myself active all the time.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, massively. Like if I'm sitting around for too long, I start thinking about different things.
Yes.
I guess as I get older, I realise why I like to keep so active, which is.
How old are you?
33 now.
33. Today.
Today.
Happy birthday, man. There you go. You don't look 33.
I'm 29.
29.
Yeah.
Same as me. So what I want to hit on here with you is the creative aspects of what you do. So you're plumbing full time, so you do that Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, and then you run the logo social brand. You run social.
Bevegan.
Yeah. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
I thought it was Bejugang or something. I can never pronounce it.
It's German. Movement,
okay.
It means movements, yeah.
Okay, social movement. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I know. So you run both of those as well as the plumbing. How do you kind of, I guess, manage that full-time job, running the clothing brand, DJing and doing all of your other creative outlets? How do you kind of make it work?
It's a difficult one. I mean, especially having a year off from the party side of it and going back to it, like actually I had my first party last night. That brought back all the anxiety and the stress.
Yes.
I don't know, I just feel like did my job Monday to Friday, but then every night or during the day I'm on social media trying to promote parties, trying to be in the scene, trying to go to the events, mingle with different DJs, different promoters. You know, you just it's like kind of a full-time,
it's full on
24/7 job basically. It's hard to explain how I actually juggle it. It just kind of comes natural because I've been doing it for so long in the UK as well. Just kind of been hustling like that.
So when you say in the UK as well, you were working plumbing at home and then doing
but still
music and stuff as well?
Yeah, still in the music scene, fashion scene, stuff like that as well. Just naturally kind of wanted to do that. I feel like I probably want to do the creative stuff full time.
Yes.
But as obviously the visas and I've been in the plumbing industry for so many years now, it comes natural. So I'm trying to juggle both passions in a minute. But yeah, I love them both, and I've met some great people through both things. So
yeah, for sure. I think as well, from my experience, obviously pre-COVID as well, I've been out of the music industry for pretty much a full year well. And when you just said there, the anxiety and the stress, all that flooding back, that's one of the main things for me, even sitting here now, that I'm apprehensive about stepping back into that world, because it is, as you say, you're on social media 24/7, which is already not good for your mental health. As well as the late nights and then being in that environment and all the drunk people and stuff.
Yeah, well, like one of the big turning points, I guess, was end of 2019, with a friend. I'm not gonna say his name, but took his own life big in industry, was basically my kind of like a mentor and like the person I looked up to. So that was like a big turning point. And then it came into 2020, party scenes were still going for the first 2-3 months, and then the world just ended. And then it gave me a chance to sort of look back at the industry, and I've devoted 10 plus years to it, and think to myself really what I'm actually doing, if it's right for me, if I'm doing it for the right reasons, how much of my life it's taken up, especially with I looked at the amount I was posting on Facebook and just on social media all the time. I could not put my phone down, which was like I didn't even know I was that addicted, but it was just I have to post about an event, I need to be at the party, I need to be sharing this, and it was constant but so that gave me a bit of time to sort of step back and look at it in a different way. And now going back into it, I'm still trying to work out what I want to do, if I want to DJ, if I want to promote, if I need to just completely say goodbye to it. Still trying to suss that out as I'm making my little return. So, yeah.
It's finding the balance, I think, and I think you're absolutely right. That year, obviously COVID happened March 2020 and it shut down the industry here. And for me, that gave me, and I think what I want to just highlight here, when you're talking about the right reasons, when you're saying the right reasons for hosting the events and stuff, what would you say are the right reasons for you to be doing it?
Just being passionate about, for instance, events, being passionate about bringing up unknown DJs, people that are in my sort of circumstance. When I come to Australia, I didn't know anyone. I came here on my own, and music was like a way of like me mingling and meeting new people and sort of building myself like that. So maybe giving that type of opportunity to like young DJs coming like that, for me that's like a good thing, throwing unique events and not just trying to just tick the boxes of like it has to be this genre, or like throwing like parties that I'm truly passionate about. I like to do decorations and weird things like that, and things that people haven't done before. Like last night, for instance, I did an open to close event, which is giving 2 DJs 6-hour set, which is pretty much unheard of in Sydney. It's usually like 1 hour, half an hour, yeah. You know what I mean? So trying to do that extended set, bringing something like from Europe, which is a bit different. Those are the things that I'm passionate about. I want to always be different, and it's not so much like money, and like I'm not trying to like become a millionaire from it. I truly love it. So yeah,
it'd be hard to become a millionaire from events in Sydney. There's only a handful of them, maybe, that would be close to that.
Yeah.
And I think looking back at whenever I was, if I reflect on that year, because our brand, we had like explosive growth throughout that year. You know, it was just unprecedented.
Yeah,
but it like took a massive toll on my mental health. Towards the end of the year, I think we'd only hosted like maybe 15, 16 parties, but by the end of the year, close to Christmas, I was almost bordering suicidal because it just sucked everything out of me, you know?
Yeah.
Getting lost in the money and the fame and everything, and just becoming so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So when COVID stepped in, it took it all away.
Yeah.
You know, gives you a chance to reflect. Why was I pouring so much of my life into this? Was it for like, so other people would respect me, or was it for money, or was it because I actually really loved the music, which I do? But you kind of just get lost.
Yeah. Especially in the Sydney scene as well. 2019, pretty much the whole time I was here, it was building up to a point where you had to be having international DJs flying in to fill parties and stuff like that. So I kind of got into this sort of spiral of like spending so much money, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 trying to fly in international DJs to then sell 90%, 80% of tickets, and it kind of like local DJs weren't cutting it. You need to just be bringing in somebody to try and like make the party appealing, which I didn't really want it to be like that. But all the parties were sort of doing that, and now it's gone back to like basics where it's just locals, and then hopefully it can stay like that for a while with the whole COVID thing, and these local DJs, these bedroom DJs can actually get like the record, like, you know, they can get the look and the passion, and people can actually see their talent for what it is.
Give them a shot.
Yeah, give them a shot.
Which is pretty much why we started as well. I only ever booked people, most of the time anyway, on our rosters that weren't already a part of the scene. Like people that had never had the opportunity. So similar to you, it's like, I know what it was like coming here. Nobody ever gives you a shot. Okay, I'll build my own, and then I'll give other people a shot. You know? So I think that's important, man.
Definitely.
Ben, so obviously your professional life would be quite different to Jermaine's in that regard. So architectural technologist, what does that actually entail day to day? Are you in an office? Are you on site? What's the kind of...
So my job basically entails a bit of everything. So I do a lot of work in the office, so it's basically communicating drawings and taking sort of people's ideas, making them into a drawing, and then being able to hand that out as packages to builders, contractors, other sort of disciplines. It also involves going onto site, making sure that what we've drawn and detailed and everything like that is actually what's being built, so that we've got a quality assurance. And also communicating with other contractors, you know, meetings, all that sort of thing. I'm also trying to get more into sort of the business development, so trying to bring in clients, bring in different sources of work and things like that. But as a company, and I think this is worth saying, as a company, we target, and myself and the other lads that I work with target projects and opportunities that's to do with giving back. We're very much a company that tries to give back to what we like. We want to leave a legacy of doing things correctly. For example, one of the projects that we've just done and completed was to home people of domestic abuse and violence through that sort of and disadvantaged people in that area. And straight away, as soon as it was built, in the final meeting to say, you know, congratulations, well done, some woman stood up and said, look, the outcome of this is that we've had 5 women of domestic abuse who are already signed up to go straight to into this building that we've created. So it's that's the sort of company that I work for, and our values are, as a team, we're only a small team, but as a value of our team, we are very much focused on that. And to me, that's brilliant, and part of the work that I want to be involved in is that sort of area. So I'm so happy that that's the company that I'm involved with, and I think it's really heartwarming to see that it's not all about, as you were saying about the music industry, it's something that you love to do. This to me is about seeing the benefits of what we're doing to people straight away. Like, it's almost instantaneous that people are getting the benefit of what you're doing. So that's my job day to day. Unlike Jay, I don't have these outside projects, but my time is taken up with just going to the
14,000 kilometres.
Yeah, going to the gym. Yeah,
all your time for that.
That's all
and your dog.
My dog, and the gym. I mean, I say before this, I played a lot of rugby. I also, powerlifting. The whole powerlifting thing is that you're training for 3-4 hours a day, and takes up a lot of time. All the time. So yeah, that's where I've always been sort of gym focused and just activity focused and being outside and that sort of thing. So that's where sort of my passions lie, and I like to be under pressure in that respect as opposed to the different areas. So
whenever you said, because obviously I'd sent you a couple of questions just and get a bit of background on both of you before you came, and when you said architectural technologist, I was like, well, it's something to do with architecture. building, I didn't really know.
Google.
Yeah, exactly. Just sitting in an office drawing shit. But that's really cool. I think I obviously was completely unaware of that, so I think that's really cool to be involved in a company that has a direct impact on the community in a way like that,
Yeah.
Sort of makes it a little bit more fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. My actual role is completely in the middle. So I do get involved in the architectural side. I also get involved in the consultancy side. So I'm very much in the middle. But yeah, as I say, the focus of the work and trying to really target those the jobs that really speak out to people, the jobs that make you feel good about what you're doing, as opposed to don't get me wrong, you get developers who want to do this, that and the other and build these incredible buildings for like housing and whatever, but at the end of the day, as a generalization, you get a lot of developers who are willing to put in a small amount of money to get the maximum profit back. Yeah. So and that's fine, that's great, it is what it is, but it's not pulling your heartstrings to really you're not getting passionate drive to go and do that.
There's a lot of that in Sydney though, isn't there?
There's an awful lot of that. There's an awful lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of people going for like maximum profit.
100%. And then you find these buildings that are going up fast, they're going up cheap, and we might specify things and they'll just get blown off the table. So look, it is what it is. Whereas these other projects, it's not all about the money that's getting put into them. There's not, there might be a lot of money, might be a small amount of money, but at the end of the day, it's the end product and the outcome user that really benefits from it, and that's what really makes a difference.
Yeah. With that, because I just kind of want to gauge here for anyone listening and for my own clarification. So the other projects, like you're building these sort of charitable sort of ventures. Yep. Is that coming directly from you guys? You're reaching out to developers asking for that, or people coming to you saying, hey, we want to do this for the community, can you guys help us bring this to life?
Both. It's completely both. We target that specifically. We target those sort of developers to find out, we target sort of Catholic healthcare. Okay. We try and use that, they're one of our clients. But you build that relationship. It's the same as any other business venture. You build relationships, and they might come back to us and say, look, actually, we've got an opportunity over here. We'd love to do something in this bracket, and we say, yeah, that's well within our what we want to be doing, and we focus. Our focus is on that sort of area. So we can be going out to these different places, childcare, caring facilities, hospitals, that sort of direction. And that's what we're trying to focus all our attention on. Obviously, there's some other jobs that come into that, and sort of if it's worth our while, then yes, we'll take it on. But as I say, 90% of our focus is all about the charitable sort of jobs. And don't get me wrong, there's profit involved. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a company.
Of course. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's more about what comes back. You get to see it with your own eyes, and that's what makes it worthwhile.
You're making a difference to people's lives, and sort of
it's
not dissimilar to what we would have been doing. Maybe, you know, we're giving people an opportunity that they would never have had or couldn't ever have had, but the same thing for you, and it's just in a completely different different contrast, different industry.
Absolutely.
You know? That's really cool. I didn't know. So I'll just lead on here because obviously this is a mental health focused podcast. So I guess with you, obviously me and Jermaine, I will understand sort of the impact that the industry has on yours based on my own experience. But for you, how do you kind of find your job? Obviously it's an office job, 9 to 5? More or less. Okay, so how would you kind of find that affects, because I know you said in the email with the questions that you personally have never really had any run-in or issues with your own mental health. How do you find your job impacts that, the stress of it? Does it come home with you, or can you leave it at the door?
Yeah, so from the outside looking in, or from my own sort of going back to, you know, preteen, childhood sort of times, going through adolescence and puberty, everyone just is like a roller coaster as far as I'm aware, and obviously at that point I dealt with that very differently and probably didn't deal with that the best, looking back, but that, to me, that was just normal life, that was just the way that sort of things would sort of go, but in terms of my adult life, I've never sort of dealt with it myself, but the impact for me is seeing other people deal with their own problems and dealing with the loss of someone who's taken their own life, and I could be really wrong in saying this, but I believe that a lot more people either know of someone who's taken their own life or know of someone who has taken their own life, if that makes sense. And that's becoming a real, it's blaringly scary in your face that shouldn't be the case, because as a child, if you think back to when you're 8 years old or younger, that would never be a thing to be thinking of as an 8-year-old young boy. You wouldn't be thinking of that sort of thing, or as far as I would never be thinking of taking my own life. That would never be something that I would ever grow up to think that this is going to be outcome. Whereas a lot of young boys, young teens, middle-aged people, they're all in that sort of bracket where they're actually doing this already. And seeing the impact that has on my friends, Jay, other friends who have had close people to them who have taken their own life, and seeing the effects of that on them is, as a person, I care about my friends, obviously, of course. But seeing the impact that it has on them is shattering to me, because I think that shouldn't be something that you have to deal with. Obviously it's life, but it has what it has. When you say
this is what I find interesting whenever you were saying this, because in my own life I don't have any people in my life that have ever committed suicide or taken their life, but I've had suicidal thoughts before. Never any intent behind it, but it's what my psychologist termed passive suicidal thoughts or something. Anyway, you have them, but you don't actually consider actually doing it. You know what I mean? So how do you find it is seeing your friends? Because when you say seeing the impact it's had on them, what is the impact that it's had on the people in your life when someone they know has taken their life?
It's just this, and everything that I'm going to say is blaringly obvious, but to me it's just the devastation that it leaves behind. It's the questions as to, it's a lot of self-blame. You see a lot of people who don't understand, or trying to blame themselves, or thinking what else could I have done, or what should I have done differently, or was I not there for them in the first place, or did I even know this person? And that is really hard to see from the outside looking in, to someone who's dealing with that, because you can only tell them that, you can only say that's not the case, you can only say that it's that they've got to deal with that themselves, essentially. And to me that's hard to look at and watch and see. I can't even imagine what it's like to actually be that person themselves, so you know, I'm in no place to say what they feel like.
It's kind of two sides, isn't it? Like from one side looking in, somebody takes their own life, you're thinking to yourself, especially if they're close to you, you're thinking to yourself, could I have done more? Was it something to do with me? You know, why didn't I see the signs? But from the other side, somebody who's suicidal, I feel like when they're in that place, there's nothing around them that can like potentially stop them. If you're deep into those thoughts and it's struggling that much, and that is the only option, I sometimes feel like nothing around you could stop that. When you're like in that really, really dark place, it's kind of like trying to ride that wave and come out of it back into a happy place, and like ride that roller coaster of like.
It can be a challenging wave.
Yeah, in and out. But I mean, in the last 2 years, probably had 5 friends take their own life, which is like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Direct friends.
Direct friends, yeah. And I don't know if it's just because of the music industry or the COVID situation. I mean, COVID, like last year, like a lot of people around the world were probably taking their own lives.
Yeah, for sure. Had a massive impact.
But it's also, I'm trying to work out whether or not it's social media. Like if I'm learning more about it because we're so connected around the world, or if it was always a thing. You know, like if people were always taking their own life, or if now I'm only just seeing it. But it seems to be becoming more common, yeah. Like it's now maybe people are thinking of this as like an option now. It's a bit of a weird situation at the minute.
When you say I don't want to probe too much in that, obviously out of respect for your friends, but when you say so it's 5 and you said the music industry, are they all like somehow connected to the music industry?
So 3 of them. Well, 2 of them are. One was kind of more entertainment industry, so like TV presenter, which she was getting a lot of hate from the British press at the time and stuff. So, which it kind of like on one side everyone was like trying to support her, and on the other side the British press were giving her quite a lot of
hard attack. That.
Yeah, and she decided the option was to take her own life, which is. She's quite high. I'm not going to say her name, but she was quite high profile. And she decided she'd take her own life, which is a bit of a shame, obviously. But
I think that's really. I just want to probably point out here that this lady was obviously, as you said, she was quite a high profile figure in UK. Yeah. So she's on the TV and stuff. People probably know her to see. So I think, at least from my shoes as well, you don't ever consider that people in that position could have these thoughts, like the thoughts of a normal person, you know, that's not on TV or famous, but they can still succumb to the effect of the negativity or the trolls or anything else, and think the only way out or the only fix is.
And everything on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything looks great, you know, you're putting up your best bits of your life, but
that's it.
You know, and for other person looking in, everything looks great, and you might be looking at other people thinking, oh, why is my life not like that? And it's that spiral of
judgment, isn't it? It's just judgment. Everyone's judging. With the social media aspect, to me, it's just a case of it's a judgment. Everything that you look at, Instagram specifically, you're taking a picture and you're judging it straight away.
Yeah.
And other people are doing that straight away. You know, they're judging it and comparing it between yourself and that picture. Whereas there's that picture and it's surrounded by everything else. So, and that's easy to say from the outside looking in, but I mean, I'll be honest, I've done that myself. I do it every single day when I look at it, and that's the way it is.
And it even goes into like our bodybuilding background. You know, you're going on to some of the biggest brands and they've all got like these perfect bodies, and then you're looking at like
natural as well.
Everyone's natural, but you know they're not natural, and you're comparing yourself, and then that's giving these young kids like, okay, well, I need to be taking this or trying to do this, like, you know, to level up. So it's that spiral
to
of
level up.
But it's that spiral of like not satisfied mental health again. It's just like so
it's that comparison trap, definitely. Like in Instagram specifically for that, I don't know how that is impacting, like, you know, teenagers and kids nowadays, but even for us as adults, you might be aware of it, that you're doing it, but you still do it. You do still look and think, oh wow, why does he look so better? Why is, you know,
how's he got that position? How is he in that position where he can do this, or how? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm an old guy. I'm older than you guys, so but like
a little bit.
In my day, it was like MSN and MySpace.
I remember MSN and Bebo.
Share the love, man.
Yeah, so I mean, all I cared about then was like who was in my friends list,
top 16,
and like what band I was listening to. It wasn't really like, okay, I need to be putting up this like crazy picture.
But what I was saying before about the like, I'd say from when we were young lads, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, the last thing I would ever be thinking of is taking my own life or you know, or what have I done? Do you know what I mean? Like the last thing I've been thinking of taking my own life. I mean, I had a conversation with someone last week, and they were incredibly supportive of what we were doing, because in their area of New South Wales, they've in their community they'd had a young girl of 12 who'd taken her own life, and a young I can't remember whether the girl or a boy, but a young person of 10 attempted to take their own life. Now, I don't know if that's normal now, I don't know, but to me that was stark contrast to where I was at 10, 12 years old.
I think even in Ireland that was the same. It was, you know, a kid contemplating or considering doing that. I don't think that was ever a thing when I was growing up, you know.
But what has happened in their life, and I don't know what's happened in their life to ever consider that that's the way forward. Now, what I was told to believe, or made to believe, was that it was a nice community. There wasn't, you know, anything untoward about it. But even still, you know, there's something wrong in that area of the world, or it's something wrong with society that's making a 12-year-old take their own life.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, even like there's even this whole social media thing again. I mean, it's positive and it's negative, but it even goes back to, like, you know, some of these children. When I was in school, I witnessed bullying. I had a bit of bullying and stuff, but now maybe the bullying side is not just at school, it's going on to online, which is social media again.
Never getting away from it.
It's 24/7, there's pictures and videos going around of whatever, you know, and they're being targeted, you know, and then maybe they're finding that is the only way to option out, you know, when everything's getting too much, you know, don't want to speak to your parents, what are your parents going to do, they're going to make it worse. So
I think it's hard as well, at least when I was growing up, and I'm not sure about you, and maybe this is, again, maybe females won't relate to this, but I think as men, especially as younger kids as well, it can be quite hard because you're not really ever taught or shown how to, like, express yourself or talk about your emotions, especially as, you know, as a younger kid. It's like, how do you express that I'm feeling this way, because school doesn't teach you it.
Yeah, and
you don't know what to do, you know.
I don't know if your dad was the same, but my dad's like man,
alpha man. Yeah,
he's like
man.
A man. You know, he worked high up at the steelworks. Like, he was like on the board. He teaches karate. You know, he's a man. I'm still scared of him now, to be honest. But like, I was like, that's the sort of, like, I was always like, don't show my emotions. I'm kind of a bit cold now. Sometimes I can be a bit like, my girlfriend would say that as well.
Well, you might consider yourself cold, but you obviously do a lot of charitable work, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and then I guess that's my mum's side. My mum's like polar opposite. And Dad's like cold, like, you know, won't talk about his feelings. My mum's like the opposite. So I guess I'm in that, like, balance in between. I know that I've got a purpose to, like, try and help. Yeah. But also, like, I'm still learning my own emotions. Like, I don't always open up. Like, people that have, like, passed away around me, I can shut off and go a bit cold and not really
shut the emotion down, not feel it.
Yeah, sort of suppress that and try and move on, which I should, you know, really learn to talk a little bit more about that. So.
Well, you're aware of it, you know.
You're
talking about it right now, and I think that puts you a step ahead of a lot of people. You know, you have to do something to sort of work around it, but you know, you're human at the end of the day, and it's something you've grown up with. It's not just going to change overnight, you know. And my father, same, couldn't express his emotions, wouldn't express his emotions, find it very difficult up until maybe like 3-4 years ago to say the words like I love you, you know. So that's I think men in general, especially our fathers, you know, that generation, it's tough for them to be able to do it. And 100%. Yourself, what was your family similar to that or different?
Look, my family, my family's, we're a really close family. There's 6 of us in my immediate family. We're super close. We're not a family really, especially growing up. We weren't not a family to sort of be like, I don't know, sort of. We would hug and stuff like that, but it's that's it. It's like that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird to say, but yeah, I don't know. My family's, I say, we're so close. I speak to my mum and dad at least every day, and yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not talking about our emotions when we're talking on the phone, whether we should be or not, I don't know. But that's just the way I've always been. That's the way it's always been. Again, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but as I think a good point that you said is that we're all humans. Like, I mean, we ain't going to get everything right all of the time, but it's trying to be aware of, okay, this is how I've dealt with something, this is how I should deal with it in the future, whether I did this wrong, and also learning from what you've done and whether you can react to it any better. So yeah, I mean, as I say, like, as a young lad, I knew that I dealt with a lot of situations probably incorrectly. I was quite aggressive and probably couldn't handle my temper very well. But I think that's safe to say a lot of young boys couldn't do that.
Yeah, I was very much like that. But the aggression and acting like that was coming from a place of me, especially coming from Ireland. You know, it's like beer culture. You have to be a hard man. You know, it was trying to be that person, but I'm not like that. But it was trying to. I have to be like this to be a man. So I'll try to fight, and I always get battered. Like, I'm a tough guy, like, you know. But
yeah. But so yeah, like, look, I mean, that is sort of my interaction with in terms of emotions and all that. But it's just never something that. It's just not something that gets talked about. I probably even now, like, it's, as you can probably see, I'm not particularly comfortable about talking about my emotions because I'm not very good at it. I think I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm quite sort of open physically, like, as in, but to talk about it, it's quite confronting. And
it's hard because we're like a man, it's still that stigma of like, oh, just man up. You know,
don't be a pussy.
And that's that's probably what I'm thinking now. But I don't know. It's quite, as I say, it's quite confronting. Something that I've not really talked about before, and something that me and Jay have discussed in talking with other people is that the way I see mental problems or mental issues, probably not the right word, is that it's not an emotion. It massively is that it's kind of like talking about sex when you're 12 years old to your parents. When you're 12 years old and you're talking to your parents, the last thing
never
you want to talk
to
about sex. Exactly, you don't do it. No one wants to do it. No one wants to have that conversation because you just die inside, you know. Yeah. No one, or as far as I'm aware, or in my personal opinion, I wouldn't have talked about my emotions to my folks or to anyone, because it's just, I would have the same sort of cringing inside of me that is like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and I've only sort of learned that relatively recently. I've only sort of realised that, and looking back, I'm like, that's probably what's the case is. But I think that needs to be eradicated, because the sooner you can get rid of that stigmatism, or the sooner you can open up about that from a real young age, by the sounds of it, from having conversations with other people, the sooner that this whole conversation about, okay, I'm not feeling particularly great today, or this is happening, or I'm really annoyed, or I'm really aggressive, or whatever, the sooner, like, as a community or a group of people, or, you know, as a population, we can sort of learn or try and learn from each other as how to, okay, when to step back, when to step in, or when to just listen.
I think that's a hugely important point, because, as you said, we aren't shown or taught how to do it, and societally, especially as men, like, a lot of people find it really difficult because you have to be this tough man, and by talking about your emotions, you're not a man, you know. But then this is leading to all of these issues, and you're even saying now you're feeling sort of uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about this, sweating and shit, man. You know.
I actually remember as a kid saying to my mum that I was feeling depressed, and that got brushed off. No disrespect to my mum, and maybe she wasn't like aware of what was going on, but I had this little at the time, and I kind of just went, oh, alright, it's probably nothing, and just kind of moved on. And then there's a few sort of things that happened in my life, and it came a little bit more apparent. But then I kind of like did the whole man thing of like, it's right, be good, and just like, you don't want to talk about it, and then kind of moved on. And as I'm getting older and I've seen more people take their own life, I feel like now I should be trying to like talk about it more, about my own emotions, and trying to like do something like this as well, where, you know, we're going to be doing this bike ride where we can wear you know, awareness about mental health, and kind of just try and get the stigma and get more people talking about it as well, which is like something I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to talk about Ben, for instance. Obviously he's never suffered that, but is now like massively aware of like the problem that it is in the world, you know, like the amount of men and women that are taking their lives as well. It's like,
I think people need to know about it. Well, as you say, I think it's important too. I mean, there's so many statistics about men taking their own life, but it's also women as well. Like, I mean, that also needs to be broached, and that was something that me and Jay both have said and been quite passionate about is that we don't want this to be segregated just to men. Yes, we are two men who are doing this, but it's not just about raising awareness for men or teens or whatever. This is about everyone, and I don't think you're going to tackle a problem without tackling everyone in that area. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and we both touched on, actually one of the friends in the gym actually said to us about, it's not necessarily tackling somebody who's suffering mental health, it's even going right back to like people like kids in school and stuff who haven't got that yet, but they could end up, something could end up happening where drugs or whatever, going right back to that and giving this opportunity in life to then progress and have a healthy life.
Let's go back to that, because in the questions I sent you when you answered them, so obviously you were saying you were the only black kid in your kind of area and neighbourhood and school growing up. So I think it's important to kind of, if we can go into that, how did that experience kind of affect you? Was there any negativity as a result of that? Did it affect your mental health? Were any struggles, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really talk about without bringing my brother into it, because my brother's 14 years older than me, so I'm a mistake.
The best people are there.
So like my family, my parents originally came from Jamaica to Birmingham, and then my brother was born. Birmingham's quite a mixed culture, black, there's a bit of everything.
Still really multicultural.
Still multicultural, yeah. And then they moved. My dad he got an opportunity to move south for various reasons, money, basically taking my brother away from like quite a negative environment. Birmingham's quite, you can go the wrong way. So he moved south, and at that time, I think it was before I was born, maybe the 80s or something, 70s, 80s, it was just white people. It was all like, no black people at all. So the only black family stuck out like anything. So my brother hit that first, the school, why are you black, where are you from? And then his way of sort of like overcoming that was fighting violence. He was like, the hard man around the area. Lucky enough, my nephew was born, and he completely changed his life. He's great now, good job, and he's never been into like major trouble, but his ways of like dealing with it was violence and stuff like that. People looked up to him in that way because he was like tough
guy.
Then I'm born, and then all I'm hearing is about my older brother as I'm growing up. So I'm getting that stuff in school, and I know what his reputation's like. So I end up like kind of like, that's how I am in school, fighting and trying to build up a reputation like that, and that's the way I was dealing with it. But it was a bit of a weird one. Like, a lot of people were asking the questions, stupid questions as a kid, like, why are you black? Like, just trying to, you know what I mean? And I'm going home and I'm like asking my parents,
why?
Like, why? Like, I still remember, like, I'm like going to my mum, like, why am I black? I'm brown. I'm brown. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, asking stupid questions like that, and then like going back into school, and then like somebody else is asking a stupid question, and it sort of spirals. And then after a while, like, everyone's like, oh, it's Jamaican, like whatever. Like, but that's like stigma at first. And then I went to senior school, and in senior school, like my primary school was 10 people in my year. I go to senior school, it's like 250 people in my year, and like, everyone's white. And I'm like, going my whole like, but people sort of just accepted it, but I felt like I was always trying to like fit in, which was like trying to like be accepted.
Yeah, that's what you said. You were, because you said, I presume this was probably in your teenage years at high school, you were quite a shy kid generally, and you generally overcompensated a lot, as you said, trying to fit in and stuff.
Compensate with various things, like trying to excel at like sport or something like that, and trying to get into the teams, and lucky enough, one of my teachers as a kid, he pushed me into art, so I excelled at that, so a lot of people liked me because of that as well. And in senior school, hanging out with like the right kids, I guess, like popular kids and stuff like that. So I kind of,
when you say the popular kids, because there could be two ways to define that, is it that the sporty jockey people, or the people that smoke weed and take it?
Like, it was a bit of a weird one actually, because they were like sporty jockey people, but kind of smart. But there was one guy who we didn't really get along with, but was in our group, who was like a school bully.
So he
was like, you were with him because you were scared of him.
Got you.
But we didn't, you know what I mean? We didn't like him. Actually, years later, I had to like basically say to this guy, like, you made my life hell in school, like, and you made a lot of people. And I don't know if he probably wasn't aware. Oh, no, he must have been aware. He was just, fully aware. He was just a bad kid. Like he's he's still a bad kid now, to be honest. But so I was in what I thought was a popular group and stuff like that. You know, we were all loved by everyone, I guess, but it's just this one asshole, I guess. But yeah, I was just trying to like fit in, become accepted, trying to find out what I like, who I am as well. Because it's just me, my mum, my brother. That was it, and all my family were like, even Jamaica or London or Birmingham. So I didn't really have much interaction with like my cousins and stuff like that. I didn't really have that much interaction with other black people as well. So just growing up with like white kids, I felt like maybe there's a part of me missing. I didn't really like know where I
came from.
Yeah. So growing up, so yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, really. Like I just trying to like fit in and somehow fit in, but yeah.
Looking back on that now, because obviously you said you were growing up and you were surrounded with mostly white people. How do you find, from where like sitting reflecting on that now, do you think that had any like sort of effect on, I guess, your life? Like obviously you'll have been around more black people, you have black friends and stuff now. Is there a difference in, I guess, how you interact and get on and stuff, or do you think that would have affected you?
No, I mean, like all my black friends and cousins and that, everyone's like, you know, pretty similar. There's obviously culture differences, you know, the English culture where it's, you know, the foods and the, you know, the music and stuff like that is very different. You know, like the Jamaican culture is very like singing, dancing. English culture is like, you know,
not singing, or not dancing anyway, maybe singing at a football match. But.
Yeah, so it's very different like that. Like, and I did feel when I went to weddings and funerals and stuff like, with my family, I'm like, whoa, this is like, I feel like so out of place. I've never like, you know, been like jerk chicken and like this is, you know, like it's like, this is like
as stereotypical as you can get.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, it felt like, oh wow, like I don't feel like I fit in this family. It was it was weird just growing up. Like there's situations where I'm like, man, this like.
I'm used to fish and chips here.
Yeah, where's my son doing?
And that's at the wedding.
But like, just being around like my family and stuff like that was just, I've just been so used to living in Corby and Northampton and stuff like that. When I moved to London, obviously, like London was more. Of course. And that's probably one of the reasons why I moved around so much. As soon as I could move, I like left my hometown, which was Corby. I just went off, and then that's when I kind of like become an adult and really found myself a bit more as well. So, but yeah, that's sort of situations as a kid. I was just trying to like, looking back at it now, I was like really just trying to just find myself in life and really work out where I was, and that's probably why I was a little bit shy as well growing up, and then kind of opened up a little bit more as I got older.
I think for me as well, I've only really became comfortable with like me as a man, as a person, as who I am right now in the past, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. I'm not pretending to be who everyone else thinks I need to be or what I think other people want me to be. It's like, this is who I am, this is what I'm here on the earth to do. If you don't like it, well, that's cool, man. You know. And whenever I asked you that question, you said obviously your life growing up was relatively normal in comparison, so any effect on your upbringing or mental health?
Look, the cold weather up north.
The cold weather up north, yeah. No, I mean, I obviously I don't know how, you know, the interactions and stuff that Jay had at all, and I'm not trying to compare it all, but where I'm from is that sort of, I'm from the Lake District in the northwest of England. You'd be hard pressed to find that sort of a different multicultural sort of aspect within that community. Don't get me wrong, it's, you know, slowly growing and stuff like that, but people like don't generally travel up north that far. I mean, no, I'm half an hour away from the border of Scotland, and you know that's about, you know, I'm pretty much at the top of the country.
Above Newcastle?
Other side, west. So okay, Newcastle's east, and we're on the west. Okay. So again, this is more from the outside looking in. We had a couple of different raced kids coming to our school, and I don't know the impact that it had on them being surrounded by white people, but that's possibly the way that those guys felt as well. But as a generalisation for me, I think growing up through school, I think there was definitely an element or a part of me, or probably a majority of me, is trying to find your way as well. I don't think that's segregated to just, you know, being a black kid or an Asian child or whatever. I think that's everyone going through that sort of period of their life, trying to find out where they fit in, probably trying to be somebody that they're not, trying to do things that they probably wouldn't do or feel comfortable doing. But I think that's part of growing up and being a child and being a young adolescent, especially in those sort of senior schools or secondary school. You're always trying to impress who you think you people fit in, or impress, or trying to whatever. And you know, girls become prominent, or boys or whatever become prominent, and you're always trying to sort of do that thing that makes you either stand out or fit in or be part of the group. And I think that's everyone. I think you go back to schools even now and you see that kids trying to do that, and you look to our parents, and they were probably in the same boat. So I don't think that's changed, but it's a rocky road trying to do that, because you can end up in, I'll give an analogy my dad used to say, and he used to really bad for me anyway. There's a path, you're on a path, and each side of the path there's buckets of shit. And he said, at the minute, Ben, and I remember this conversation vividly, at 16 years old, he said, at the minute, Ben, you're stepping in every single bucket of shit as you're going on the road. The idea is you try and go straight on this road, but you're stepping in every single one of them, and I'll never forget that till the day I die. So I think that to me summed up my whole secondary school life anyway. But look,
well, you're here now.
Exactly.
You made it in Australia. You've been here for 4 years. So.
Trying to make amends for that. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think everyone gets shitty shoes when they're taking those roads. For sure.
You're just learning.
But I definitely in the UK, I definitely met people that were like stand off for me. Even, I hate to say it, but even when I was leaving England, I had a girlfriend at the time, and she broke up with me just in Asia, which was like, you know.
Well, you just travelled in Asia, or she was still at home in Asia?
So basically, she left the UK. Maybe I don't want to give her too much promo. So yeah, she left like 3-4 weeks before me with her friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sick. So I'm like moving to Australia or moving to Asia and stuff like that. And I arrived in Vietnam, Lower Vietnam. She was in Northern Vietnam, and I just basically got a phone call saying that, you know, like, I just want to be single during the travel. And I was like, wow, I've just packed up everything in my life to come over. So, but I mean, it was the best and worst thing, you know. Yes. I mean, like, you know, I've met my girlfriend now because of that, which is good. But even with her, like, I had this massive kind of issue with her dad. So her sister was with a black guy before. He was quite violent. He'd been to jail. Had some problems with that, and had caused problems within their family. They broke up. She moved on. She had the baby, but he was still kind of like in and out of prison, trying to get into the family and stuff like that. I came along, plumber, good family, with her sister. Her dad disowned her. We didn't want anything to do with her because she was with a black guy.
Wow. And
that's with my relationship just before coming to Australia. So I was still like feeling that hate, like it on and off through life. But then that was like a big chat where he didn't want anything to do with me. I couldn't come into the house, and I was still trying to have a relationship with this girl. Probably knowing that it wasn't right, but carrying on with it. It was just a weird situation.
Approximately when was this? Like 2010?
Just before coming to Australia 6-7 years ago.
I think this is important to hit on here, because this isn't something like, well, as an Irish person coming to Australia, and I worked in construction when I first got here, so it's not obviously the same, but the Aussies here are quite sort of, I guess, dismissive towards us as Irish people. So go and fucking shovel that or brush the floor, you know, you're just all paddies, like, you know. So you do get that sort of segregation. It's like they think that they're better than us, but how would you have would that have affected your mental health, the way being exposed to that sort of, you know, that standoffish hatred or that sort of judgment growing up? Would that have had any sort of impact on you?
Massively, yeah. I mean, definitely that scenario as well. Like I just remember feeling like I didn't even say to my parents. I was like kind of ashamed of it. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm at the time I thought I was in love with this girl, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
At the time I thought I was in love with this girl, and I'm carrying on with this for like completely wrong reasons. Like parking down the road to pick her up from her house because her dad doesn't want to see. It's just
crazy, man.
And then that was just playing on my mind like constantly, like going home and thinking about like that, like is there something wrong with me? Why is this stigma of like black people, we're not all the same? Yes, there's problems with black people around the world, but there's problems with white.
There's problems with everyone. Exactly. There's problems all over the world.
Exactly.
As we're discussing.
yeah. You get your good and your bad. Like, but this situation, I had been painted with this brush of like, oh, you're just a bad kid as well. Where it was like, good family, educated.
You don't even know me, you know.
Yeah, you don't even know me, so you haven't given me a chance. Her mum was great, but dad was just like, no, don't want anything to do with you. Don't want anything to do with my daughter. Like full disowned his daughter.
It's crazy.
Yes.
You know? I think that's that generation as well. You know, it's not to run the generations above us down, but I guess they weren't exposed to the level of multiculturalism that we are nowadays. Like, for them, that can be like, whoa, especially if they've grown up in the Lake District and it's just white people everywhere, just people from England, you know. And
I think like Sydney or Australia is like segregated in a more obvious way. Like you have these people live in this area, this people live in this area. I think it's segregated more obvious in the UK.
All the Irish and Randwick, Brazilians, Maribra.
Yeah, but in the UK, like I could feel like I'd probably walk into a pub up north, and they would be. From a white perspective, you wouldn't really notice it, but I would be like walking in, and I would know that people were like, "Who's this guy?" Like kind of, you know, that vibe of like, "Oh, you're not from around here," and that's kind of like that plays on your mind as well.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, deep down, I try to play it off of like, oh, what, like, who cares? Yeah. But I mean, I used to get that a lot. Like, I'd be walking into somewhere and be like, oh, these people are, you know, looking at me. Or if I was like met a girl and I'm meeting the parents, be like, have you told your parents like
that I'm black?
That I'm black. Like, you told them my name.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a really like white name, Jermaine. But have you, you know, do they know that I'm like black? Like,
and that's coming based off that experience with
just several experiences through life. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just like making sure. Like, I mean, even when I got my plumbing apprenticeship, there's a place called Wellingborough, which is maybe 45 minutes from where I live, and it's quite like a black area, I guess. About an hour away from where I live. And I was from Corby, which is a white area, and me and this other guy had our apprenticeships, but they thought that I was from Wellingborough and the other guy was from Corby, and that was me to start. You're like, oh, you're from No, I'm from Corby actually, because they just assumed that you know what I mean. And then it sounds like nothing, it's kind of like a joking, but as you get that like over 20-30 years, it does build up, and you kind of like you become more aware of it. But I kind of try to shrug it off and like, what is, move on. Kind of guess that's that guy thing of like, just man up, move on. But you don't. It's kind of like that does play on your mind, and that does cause sort of a mental health problem as well. But I mean, it's going to be the same scenario in other terms of like, possibly you guys. There might be some other things where if you were maybe brought up in a black area, you know, maybe you feel I don't know,
on the other side of it. Yeah. I think like obviously having been born and bred in from where I'm from, like and being white, we didn't have I didn't have any of that. But I can imagine, as you just said, if it was the other way around, whereas if there was a big black community and I was born and bred in that, I can imagine it's the same thing. I can imagine actually, I don't know. I can imagine it's just the same thing of having that constant, you're being judged before you're met, or you're being pigeonholed into something before everybody's even been known about. And as you say, that one time, or this is like, all right, whatever. Second time, it's like, yeah, okay. It's the 20-30 years, as you say, of just constant, you're being pigeonholed constantly before anyone's even had a conversation.
I don't know if you're the same as me, but I felt like that's one of the reasons why I got into like the gym, to try and be like, I want to become a man. I want to be like, I want people to know that like I train. I want to be more accepted. I want to be
big and strong.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of men sort of suffer from that like body dysmorphia, where they're like looking at themselves like, I need to.
I think in the mental health world, I think that's huge. I think that's a massive problem for young boys. I think that's huge, and body dysmorphia for young boys, I think, is just growing and growing and growing, especially as we revert back to Instagram and being able to judge people. And you're seeing these young lads who are ripped up, they're massive, they're benching whatever, and there's young lads thinking like, okay, how did they get to that? And it's
protein, creatine. That's how they got to
that.
They have you believe.
Exactly. And
while trying to sell these products of like
these magic products that are going to get you like this in 6 weeks or whatever. And I think that, as I say, it's come back nicely in the circle by the sounds of it, because I think that's exactly what it is, man. And I think if you ask young lads, I think their biggest problem, maybe they admit it or not, I think they'd come back around and say, yeah, it's probably that. It's probably not having the right physique, or not looking the way that I should look wanting to look.
100%, and I think that's applicable even to females as well. You know, that's not just men, but for men it is, because if you're not like when I was growing up as well, gym was important. I played rugby school, and I would have been into bodybuilding. Always had the Arnold magazines and Pumping Iron and stuff. So it's like I was hanging around with friends that would have been muscularly a lot bigger than me, so I would always feel kind of, you know, I wasn't a man, I wasn't as good as them. Why could I not bench as much? Why could I not squat as much? So, you know, I never felt I felt less of a man.
And we're even getting that now, because we're in the gym and like everyone's coming up to us like, so how much have you lost? How much and like people were like, oh, that's a negative thing. I mean, then it starts to play on our mind, like, oh, we're losing too much weight. We're cycling around Australia, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, you're going to lose weight.
The biggest thing, and I couldn't bring myself to do it, I don't know why, as we discussed earlier, I'm not a big fan of speaking on camera, but the thing that I was going through, I was sat at my desk and I was doing bits and bobs, and the thing was like, one of the most prevalent videos that I could do right now is talking about the fact that, for me, I've spent my whole life trying to get bigger, whether that's through mental pressure or whatever. I've just wanted to be bigger, stronger, faster. A lot of that's to do with my rugby. I played a lot of rugby, so a lot of it's to do with that. But to get bigger, stronger and faster, that was where my direction was. That's why I was in the gym. That's why I was trying to eat as much as possible. I got to a certain size, wasn't happy with that. I wanted to get bigger, wanted to get bigger. And having taken all of that I've been working on for however many years, to then turn around and say, okay, we're going to do this.
I'm going to give it up.
We're going to do this, and we're going to give it up. Not only give it up, we're actually going to try and get smaller. We're going to try and get leaner, because we need to be able to do this.
Psychologically challenging.
Incredibly hard. And now, when I first said that I was going to do this, one of the coaches from the gym, really nice bloke, said to me, look mate, something you need to be really aware of is that you're going to lose weight and you're going to lose size. And he said, are you ready for that? And I said, yeah, probably. Not like thinking about it and being appreciating what he was saying to me, and thinking that I did understand it, so I wasn't lying to him. I genuinely thought I had understood it, and it's only now that I am starting to lose weight and I'm starting to lose size, you know, and people are noticing it and mentioning it to me, and that's not anything bad on anybody's who's talking about it, but
it does play on your mind.
It affected me more than I was ready for, and to look at myself in the mirror, to see myself in the mirror, or getting out of bed in the morning, as a lot of places here, you get out of bed, you've got two big mirrors on your wardrobe door. To get out of bed in the morning and seeing yourself, it's a hard pill to swallow, especially as I worked, you know, hard to get to the place that I wasn't even happy at to start with. So that to me has been the biggest challenge for me so far. Obviously it's a physical challenge, but this mentally has had the most effect on me for that aspect.
It's really interesting, because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, is when we actually get into the boomerang stuff, it's like, what has been the hardest thing so far? And I wasn't considering that as an answer at all. I was the answer I thought you were going to say was like, oh, you know, cycling 6 days a week or something, but that's something I had never considered, you know. And I think it's really, really powerful that you said that, because I think probably every single man that listens to this will be able to relate to that, especially if they go to the gym.
Because you devote your life, your whole life. I mean,
it's 5 days a week.
I was like, even going through as far back my apprenticeship or stuff like that, I was working 5-6 days a week, training, eating like 5-6 days a week, trying to scales.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and doing that, like, that just become routine. You know what I mean, people are starting to notice, oh, you're getting a bit bigger and stuff, like compliments. Okay, feeding the ego, man. And then, you know, and it wasn't really like, oh, I'm just trying to get, like, it's kind of like, I respected the art of going in, trying to sculpt yourself,
the dedication,
the culture, the dedication, like watching, like seeing Arnold and people like that, and like, okay, right, they've taken time to do that, and enjoying that side of it. And then, you know, we're doing this with this bike ride, and I don't like, I'm losing weight. I don't mind now so much, but it's when people come up to you saying, oh, you know, you're eating right, you lost, you know, you're losing weight. And I, from when I was a kid, my parents used to always say, oh, you're too skinny. You're too skinny, you need to eat more.
Now you're getting these two conflicting things coming back.
You're too skinny. You know? So now I'm like, I went to the, not extreme, but I was like, okay, right, so I'm going to join the gym the gym with my brother, started training with my brother. Then I kind of become like most guys, a bit addicted to that, put on weight. My parents were like, oh, you put on too much weight. So now I'm going back to like losing weight, and it's like, you know, people are now coming up to us in the gym when we're training, like, you're eating right, you know, you're losing weight now. How much weight have you lost? And then it's something simple to them, but it does.
The effect that
play on your mind.
As I just said, the effect for me that has is huge. Like you've done some running, you've done like a lot of running, you've done some like a bit endurance sort of stuff. I hate fitness, and I'm telling you right now, I hate it. I hate the cardio, I hate fitness, and it's taken me everything to get on that bike every single day. But I can accept that there's a bigger picture at hand, and I've got a drive and a goal to hit.
Self-sacrifice.
Absolutely, yeah. So you sacrifice that. You also, at the same time, you're sacrificing your personal aesthetics to what you feel like you look like. That's a lot harder when you've got people say, oh, have you lost? Oh, you're losing weight. I can see you've lost a bit of weight here. You can lose weight, because that, to me, that is hard. And I'm not saying that it's incorrect to say. It's just a passing comment, and that's fine. And I get it. But you sort of self-reflect on that yourself. Say, okay, I shouldn't take this as a. It's not a slant. It's not a dig. But you take it personally because you've worked so hard, and as you say, it's damaging your ego personally. And again, that's a self-reflection sort of thing for me. I have to sort of let that go. It's just hard for me personally. And as you were saying, when you were growing up, you're too skinny. Like I was tall growing up, and obviously yourself as well. Like you're like a string bean. You know? And I remember I'd done pretty well at playing rugby. I'd been sort of regional and sort of whatever accomplishments. And my auntie came up to me, I think at 17 years old, was like, you don't play rugby, you're too small. And I was like, yeah, right. And again, another thing that'll live with me forever, because I'll never be able to let that go. So it's that sort of ego-fed thing that affects you. And as I say, I personally, I've been training in the gym since I was 16.
13 years.
Yeah, almost every single, like, the longest time I've had off the gym is when I went and travelled to South America. We were there for 8 months, and even then I still went and found a couple of gyms to go in and train. And that's the longest time I've ever had off the gym. I've had injuries, and even when I had an arm, my arm was in a sling because I'd had shoulder reconstruction, and I still went to the gym and squatted. I had someone else hold the bar and things just so I could squat. And it's, but there's benefits and negatives to that. There's benefits that you get the serotonin, all that sort of release, but why you're there in the first place, what are you doing it there for in the first place? And that
to get big.
Yeah, exactly, and to feed your ego, to try and get back, and it's a vicious cycle. So yeah, that has been for me the biggest. As we've said, we both go to the gym, we both trained a lot in different things for an awful long time. So actually going there and pushing yourself and training hard, it's hard, but you're there for a reason, because we've already done it loads of times, every single day. So
massively different, because now we're at a point where we can't really even do too much weight. Well, we can't do weights at all. Injuries.
Yeah, from the videos and the stories I was seeing, you only really do leg work, and that's for endurance.
So
isn't it?
Mostly on the bikes now. We both just got these heart rate monitors like this week, which is good. But yeah, we don't do like any. I don't think we're going to be doing any weights during our program, really.
No, not really. The only thing we'll be doing is sort of high volume sort of stuff, just to try and trying to build your tolerance for the lactic acid, to try and get that sort of, so that you can hold more lactic acid, but become more accustomed to having the lactic acid build up in your legs. Everything upper body has pretty much stopped, gone, and you're not getting
doing anything. Is it there's no, like, are you programming this yourself? Are you doing the program, the exercise program, or do you have external trainer? Or
no, so we actually a guy from
Fitness Lab,
from the gym, Fitness Lab. He's trains at the Alexandria gym, and he kind of contacted us through
Instagram, so basically the idea
what's the gym that you're at, just so that people can
CrossFit 168.
CrossFit 168.
There's three of them throughout the city, CBD,
and you're in Alexandria.
We're in the CBD,
CBD,
but we're trying to get to a few of them just sort of show our faces for that. But his idea and his sort of approach is to work on your heart rate and work on your sort of aerobic fitness, which is exactly what we're going to need.
Yes.
And it's less about the kilometers and stuff like that we're doing. It's less about the time on the bike. It's more about hitting the aerobic capacities and hitting those sort of different levels of your heart rate in a shorter period of time, so that it increases your fitness levels. Now, I went away and did my own research and listened to people like Mark Beaumont, Mark Cavendish, people who are pretty established and the highest that they can be in the cycling world, and Mark Beaumont's cycled the world in 80 days, I think, something like that, and he a lot of his work was just sprints and stopping and starting sprint sessions. He didn't spend hours and hours and hours necessarily on a bike all the time. It was a lot of sprint work. So I fully back the training that we're currently doing.
Let me just interject there. So were you talking about Beaumont or Cavendish just then?
Mark Beaumont.
So Mark Beaumont would have been a long distance cycler?
Yeah, so he cycled the world, he cycled all the way around the world in 80 days.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's...
pretty sure there's a movie about that, but they're in a fucking hot air balloon, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, that's where he took it from.
He cycled the world in 80 days?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah, I can't remember everything about it, but he cycled it all in 80 days. But it's ultra endurance, and as he says, a lot of the time he was training for that was these sprints and
VO2 max kind of thing,
increasing the heart rate, bringing the heart rate back down, being able to control your heart and being able to control the beats per minute.
So that's what you guys are doing. You aren't doing excuse me, you aren't riding 100k a day. You are doing, as you said earlier, like an hour sprint day.
We will bring that in, but that's more to do with being comfortable on the bike, knowing your bike, that sort of thing.
Sitting on a bike for 10 hours,
that's absolutely, mentally.
So I mean, I kind of look at it as a simple terms of like going back to the bodybuilding thing, where you're trying to 10-12 reps. You're basically trying to do that with your heart, and the cardio sort of like trying to push, then back down, push, then back down. So we're like every week we're just pushing it a little bit more, then rest, and keep doing that. This is our first week doing it, so we have these heart rate monitors, and we can actually see what our heart's doing on the screen. Okay. And then work to like those zones, and then back down, zones, back down. Which is,
I don't know about you.
I've never done this before, so I
don't know about Jay, but like to me, it's given me so much more direction about what we're doing. Like when we first said that we were going to do this, I was driven to do this like incredibly. But in terms of training wise, I had no idea about where to go or how to do this. So for we've been training for probably about 2 months, but that first 2 months of training, we were just sat on a bike, just pedaling.
Yeah, you found the program.
I found a little bit of a program, and that would it's actually, now looking back, it's actually not bad, but we just didn't have, as I say, the structure. We didn't have the structure in place, so we did that for a little while, and then we just sat on a bike and whatever, and just sort of got ticking over, and we were sort of didn't really know what we were doing. This has given us sort of really focused our training into what we're trying to do, and we've got more of a drive because we know that this is what we've got to hit that day. We can be in the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, as long as we get this piece of work done, and then after that you're done.
Because the program that you found was it was amazing. Yeah, it had zone 1 to 5, but we didn't actually know what our zones were. Yeah, and we did zones. So we did this fitness test, which I failed, but we did this fitness test, and we worked out what zone is like our heart rate, and now we can actually work in these zones now, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and know what we're actually doing. So this is probably our first week,
full actual week, and on top of that, we've now got a really comprehensive diet plan based on the output from this fitness test. It gave us sort of our calories, where we're working at within our calorie zones. Are we working more on carbohydrates? Are we working more on fats? And using that data, we've then got Gabby from CrossFit 168 CBD has given us a really detailed diet plan to follow, which is really varying depending on how we feel after each week and stuff like that. It's fantastic. I really feel that this past week has been a real step forward in what we're trying to getting there.
We learned that bodies are completely different. I mean,
absolutely. Me and Jay are completely different.
Mine, I burn way too much carbs. So for something like what we're doing, I would have to be like pretty much eating porridge as I'm like cycling. Like my body's like I burn too much carbs. Like my metabolism is like crazy. So over the next year, 18 months, whatever it is, I have to basically teach my body to start using more fats. So I have to try and put more fats into my diet, and I've never even heard about this. Like,
well, that's what the ultra marathon runners do. The food they eat, it's mostly fat.
Yeah. So I need to switch that over so that my body starts using more fat than carbohydrates, because at the way it is at the minute, I'd never be able to do this, because I would just be having to take on too much carbs. Like I'd be to the extreme. Whereas you're kind of like that happy medium.
Yeah, so I'm burning more fats than carbs. My carbs is just like that little bit of an energy spurt to get that first sort of sprint going, and then it's back onto the fat sort of storage. But yeah, it was really, doing this fitness test was really interesting, and really gave us so much data to go off, and really, as I say, focus us really.
So obviously you're saying about burning, obviously the differences in your bodies, burning more fats versus more carbs. What was kind of interested me, and I guess for other people, is what does your diet look like, and how much are you both spending each week on food? Because obviously cycling burns quite a lot of calories. So
so our diets are, Jay is eating more than me, or is asked to eat more than me, because of, obviously, as we discussed, the carbohydrates. Jay's smashing through carbohydrates like there's no tomorrow. So I'm having a little bit less. But what we've been given is just like our base. So this is the minimum that you should be having, and with that there's lots of different options that you can have, and snacks and stuff that we have on riding days and stuff that we have on non-training days.
What's the baseline for both of you?
The baseline for me is something like 3,400 calories.
That's base?
Base.
Wow.
Yeah, yours is slightly higher, is it? 3.7?
3.6, 3.7, something like that,
yeah.
So that's the base. Now, for me, doing this, I've cut back on my calories, and it's a little bit harder. So my base, I don't think I've ever seen my base. It's been a lot higher throughout the whole time, just because I'm permanently hungry. But that's just the way it's gonna be. But I mean, for you, it seems to be like
you naturally eat more than me. I'm a fussy eater.
Define fussy. What don't you eat?
God, we could be here for a while.
Do you
eat fruit and vegetables?
Say again.
Do you eat fruit and vegetables?
Yeah, fruit and vegetables. But like I'm like seafood and stuff. Like
cheese.
Nah.
You don't eat cheese?
Nah.
Interesting.
I need to. That's the things I need to eat though. Like I need to eat cheese. I need to eat cheese. I need to eat avocados, which I don't like avocados.
Don't like avocados, man. How are you going to?
You're
going to be drinking bottles of olive oil.
Cut that out of all of this, because we'll lose everyone.
So I need to. That's why I'm putting more of that into my diet, because I need to get the fats side up. So yeah, my metabolism is working overtime. So I'm constantly burning quite a lot.
Yeah.
Heart rate's quite high and stuff like that as well. So I need to teach that to be more fats, just so that I can have that longevity through the.
Would you always be naturally quite lean, like just year round all your life? Would you have been generally quite defined? And lean? Just
because of my height as well. I'm like 6'4", so that.
So you're one of those people that, for me, growing up when I was at the gym, I would see someone like you that would just look at a dumbbell and get bigger, and I'd be like, fuck that guy, man. I'm sitting here busting my balls, watching what I'm eating, and
I guess I'm more like my dad. He's not as tall as me, but he's quite slim. My mum and my brother, they're like more short, stocky. So I'm definitely leaning towards my dad's side more. But yeah, naturally I was probably that kid of like, I want to put on weight, and I was quite slim, so I was like doing the weight gainers and like trying to eat everything.
But weight gainers, I used to take those, man, like 1,000 calories a shake or something.
But in that respect, we're both pretty similar. We both struggled to put on weight, and it was only, say, through this powerlifting thing that I put on weight, and like I broke a threshold. I don't know whether it's psychological or what, but I broke a threshold of getting into that sort of heavier sort of category. Now whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, because I've got to bring it all off again. But you're
how heavy did you get at your peak?
102, 103 sort of kilos.
Lean or sort of powerlifting big?
A bit of both. Like it was sort of, that sort of.
Seems like every guy wants to get to that 100 mark. Like,
again, it's an ego thing, isn't it?
What is about 100? I just want to get to 100.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't make any sense. But 102, 103. Well, 101 is 16 stone, so that was sort of
big weight.
Yeah. So I sort of got to that sort of weight, but to bring it all the way back down again is.
And I guess that takes it like back to like what we were saying about like people just coming up to us in the gym. Even like when we did the fitness test the other day, it was like, I'm so skinny, you're so skinny. We were trying to finish that, but it seems like, you know, like my girlfriend was there at the time, and it's like we're laughing and joking about it, but I'm like,
I was dying.
Am I skinny?
I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I was dying because I knew if somebody had said that to me, I think I'd probably walked out.
Yeah. This guy was like, I mean, bless him, he's a great guy, but he's emphasised it so much, and obviously that, like, it does stick in your mind. And we're, you know, we've obviously been training since April, but realistically we've been training like probably this week since we've got up, and now we've still got such a long time ahead. There's, you know, we're going to lose weight, and then on the 50 days when we're actually cycling around Australia, like, we're just going to be dropping like all sorts, because we have to be like burning like 9,000, 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah, I think from your Instagram story, I don't know which one of you responded to it, but 10k calories I believe was burned from it was 13 hours riding in the desert, and that's crazy.
So we did a couple of weeks ago, we did an event for
my
son.
We did like a charity event for a family member, and you cycled the whole.
Yeah, so I did 8 hours that day. I did 4 hours and then a break of an hour and then another 4 hours, and that was around 255k, and I was well into the 5,000 calories.
How did you feel after 255k? Like, how did you feel physically the next day or even the same day?
I was surprised in that I felt not too bad. I made sure that my recovery was pretty good, and that's like, to take things away from that day. I've learned that when we actually go out for the ride, we have to make sure that we give ourselves, even if we're flying on a day, we have to stop and make sure that our recovery is spot on.
When you say stop, like break up the ride, stop for an hour, hour and a half,
break up the ride, or at the end of the day, we really make sure that we have a limit of exactly how far we're going to go or how many hours we're going to go, because what is crucial is the recovery. Whether we're on a day and we're cruising downhill for 300k, let's say, we have to make sure that we have given ourselves. Don't get tempted by, okay, we're really kicking on today, because it's just going to affect the next 3 days where we might actually not be able to kick on because we've gone that extra bit further. So it's about really being disciplined in stopping, getting the full recovery. For me, that after that day, I went and had a bath. I was in the bath for like half an hour, just trying to soak, just trying to make sure that everything was sort of feeling good, having cold showers, eating, getting as much fuel and stuff inside of me as possible, and then making sure I had plenty of sleep and rest. And I felt pretty good. The next day, I mean, I would have loved to say I could have done it again, but I would never know until I actually went and did it again. But it's really about these sort of things that sort of thing is about taking away what you can learn from how to recover, or getting more and more information on how your body reacts to that sort of stress and pressure. So
I mean, like that as well, like, you know, it's the one day, but then when we have to try and do it like
50 days
back to back to back, it's just, that's when it's going to be really like, right, we need to recover, we need to be sleeping, we need to have the compression pants, we need to be like really looking after ourselves, we need to be eating right as we're cycling, the break needs to be at the right time, eating as well, hydrating, you know.
And eating becomes almost an alarm clock, so, you know, every half an hour you set an alarm to make sure that you're eating something, because you just forget, or you don't really want it, because your body's churning it, like your legs are going, your body's still sort of mixing around. The last thing you really want to be doing is eating, but you have to make sure that you can go the next half an hour. And as I say, Jay set an alarm every half an hour. We made sure that we were eating something, whether that was nuts or a snack or whatever, or as, you know, or a hydration tablet, just so that you're constantly having calories fueling yourself. But,
what sort of intrigued me about this, because obviously, like, coming from a fitness background as well and being active, you sort of understand the impact that this is going to have in your body. So if you're riding, so say it's going to take you, you'll ride 8 hours a day on average, just say that's what it'll take you to do your 250k, just say on average maybe 10 hours. Where do you then sleep at night? Do you have someone following you with food? How are you sort of working logistics of that when you're traversing around the country? Like, what's the...
So we've been lucky enough that when I first sort of thought of this idea, straight away I went to one of my friends in the gym who actually owns the gym, and I said to him, look, Dean, I want to do something really stupid. And he said to me, oh, do you want to compete? And he thought I wanted to compete in powerlifting. I said no, and he said, okay, give me. He finished his class, and he came and sat down outside of me, and he said, so what do you want to do? I said, I want to cycle around Australia. And I could see like a little smirk come across his face. He was like, okay, let's do it. So from that point I thought, okay, this is it kind of shocked me a little bit. It sort of took me aback a little bit, because if he had said that's stupid, I probably wouldn't have sort of gone any further with it. But because he was like, okay, let's do it, he automatically, instantly became that support guy. So he's said that he's going to be there to support us. The idea is, and this is still up for negotiation, but the idea is that we get a camper van, and he drives with in the camper van with all our food, nutrition, and all that sort of stuff, beds, spare bikes, spare bits, and we follow behind him. And we've had lots of volunteers to come and do sort of a week stretch or a 10-day stretch or a 5-day stretch to come up and fly out and meet the people, and then be
volunteer. I'll come for
there you go. And you know, the idea behind that is that they help Dean in setting up or getting the day ready for us to go, and also whilst we're on the bikes, just handing things out the window, refueling our bottles when we're ready for it.
Because we want it to be we basically want to just focus on cycling. So best case scenario is like we arrive at the destination and everything's there for us, like food's ready, accommodation's ready, you know, shower, just we can eat, chill, sleep, get up, do it again for multiple days.
I think that's super important, because if you have other things to prioritise other than just focusing on getting through 14,000 k, that's going to be
I don't want to be getting back cooking and trying to do all different stuff.
Even that little stress of having to cook something, even that little stress, you know, after the first 10 days, exactly, and it eats into your recovery, and that's one thing that I really learned from just that one bigger day. That the recovery is huge, but also as well, like having someone there and having Dean there to constantly be there is great, because he's a grounder. He'll ground us down to just that's keep important. Going with Whereas and then the luxury of having people come out and sort of meet that is that you get a fresh face every 5 week, you know, sort of days, to give you a different sort of spurt of encouragement, motivation. That's exactly it.
But we did have this little discussion about girlfriends, didn't we? Like as much as I don't, maybe I'm speaking for myself.
No, absolutely. Both of them.
As much as I would love my girlfriend to just come out and be like, hey, I don't know if it's going to be the right move, because it's going to be like, if she comes out for a couple of days and then she's gone, kind of like, I don't know.
Exactly.
I feel like I just want to be like, I'm out there. It's just me, Ben, Dean, and we're just focused on this task, and then I get back, and then it's all like, you know, misuse type thing. But I just feel like it would just spin my head out of control if like
it could. That's the thing. You don't want to take the risk. Especially with such a big task at hand.
Yeah,
and things that we've also discussed is it being really regimented. So if we say that every day we're going to be on the road by 6 a.m, we are on the road at 6 a.m. We want to have a list of things that we need to do in the morning, not just necessarily for us, but for the support. These are the things that we need to get done before we set off. We need to eat half an hour before we go. We need to make sure that we've got everything ready so that when we're on the bike's ready to go. Then at 6 o'clock we're on the bike and we're gone. At 4 hours after that point, or 5 hours, whenever it is, we have another set routine. There's a list of everything in my head needs to be regimented and sorted before we go, so that on the days that everything's going wrong, you revert back to your plan of what happens on each day, so that you don't need to think about what to do in this situation, because you've got it all down on a piece of paper that says it. The person who comes in to help Dean out doesn't need to ask all these questions or get things sort of incorrect or whatever, because they've got it all on a piece of paper, and Dean sort of guide them on that. And to me, it's a massive team effort for everyone who's involved, because everything needs to be regimented so that we can just get it done as a team, and that to me is huge.
It's the old saying, isn't it? Feel to prepare to feel.
But the scary thing is like there's going to be some things where we just cannot prepare for.
Yeah.
I mean, like all of our training pretty much is going to be New South Wales. You know, when we go out on the road bikes, we're going to be like trying to hit hills in New South Wales, Blue Mountains and stuff like that. But there's going to be areas in like Northern Territory, or you know, like South Australia, where we've just never we've never been there, so we don't know what's going to be like hitting us on that day. You know, we could be out in the middle of nowhere and it starts raining, or it could be like too hot. Or
my partner raised an interesting point, and I don't know if this would even be possible, but she was saying that when you get up to like the Northern Territory, like Darwin way, that it's like the saltwater crocs. She said that sometimes the beaches are like super close to the roads. It's like, what do you do if there's a crocodile in the middle of the road? I don't know. Is that possible?
That's actually the least of my worries.
Yeah, I know.
Because I sent you a video on YouTube, didn't I, about the flies?
Yeah.
Flies.
Yeah.
What area is that?
So there's in the Northern Territory. So there's a video on YouTube of two Eastern European couple cycling across the Northern Territory, across a really vast span of area. Like it's across the Northern Territory, but really desolate, and there's just thousands and thousands of flies, and the video scans down this lady's back, and it's just black with flies, can't see. She's got a high vis on, and you can't see it. It's just covered.
And it was freaking me out. Watching the video, it was freaking me out.
Yeah.
But like, I'm thinking like, what were he 3 weeks in?
By the time around 3 weeks in.
Yeah, so we'll be about 3 weeks in. So we'll be, pretty tired and stuff like that. And if that starts happening to me 3 weeks in, like, and that noise around me, and we probably have to wear nets and stuff like that. That's just like, that might actually. That's when Dean will be helping us out, keeping me.
The whole thing about this challenge is, and why it's so prominent with mental health, is because it's a mental challenge.
100%, man.
And about this isn't necessarily. Obviously, it's physical. You've got to be able to do it, and you've got to be able to train yourself to be able to do it. But it's a mental thing. Like, when you're in that situation, it's not because you can't do it. It's because there's something bothering you in your ear, on your face, or whatever. It's bothering you, and it's like, do you know what? Can this? Let's pack it in. But actually, it's a case of putting yourself to that point, carrying on going, and then putting yourself even further into that point, and keep on going, and challenging yourself to get through those times when you don't want to. You know, there's nothing better on the other side. You just got to keep going anyway.
Because this was the intention. I asked you guys what your intentions were, and you both, they're similar but slightly different. But it was not only just to raise the awareness for mental health, but it was also to challenge yourselves.
Yeah, and that's why it's taken us so long to find a charity as well, because we want to make sure that the money is going to the right people, and we also want to be so involved with a charity that we're like, when we're out on the road, we've said this, when we're out on the road, we know Sarah who's suffering from this, we know Daniel who's suffering from this, we actually physically can see those people. We've been contacting them, we've been volunteering with a charity.
So you've met these people?
No, so that's this is why we're
still in the process.
Yeah, so we want to. It's a bit hard one because like we want to find a mental health charity and then volunteer.
Yeah.
And work with them, and then when we're actually on the bike, we know what we're doing. Like, we know where the money is going. We've been working with a charity.
So let's just clarify for anyone that's listening now then. So you currently don't yet have a charity, but you are actively looking for one. So if anyone listening to this
100%
can point you guys in the right direction, reach out, drop a comment 100%. Or something like that.
Yeah, so we're looking for a charity that we can help, and they can obviously help us as well with when it comes to fundraising events, or just putting us in contact with the right sponsors, or just in general, that can help us, and we can.
And being enthusiastic about what we're doing as well, because at the end of the day, we need support in that, in the mental headspace as well. So if they can get behind it and really sort of be there to support us too, that's huge.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were looking at the big charities at first, but then we were like worried that they could be too big. Go for the small charities, but then for the small charities we might not get the help. It's a bit of and I mean, I've been messaging a couple of the charities to try and get some volunteer work, but some of them have been sending back sort of like generic replies of like, we've got this going on, but when you look into it, it's not really a volunteer event. It's like
we want to be hands-on. We want to really, because at the end of the day, we need to make that sort of emotional connection with the people that we're trying to help. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have that motivation, like that emotional connection, then the motivation side is harder to generate yourself. You want to be able to rely on something.
I think that leads in really well to what you're saying there about trying to find the charities, because as we were just discussing off camera, and if anyone hasn't noticed, I put a coat on. We had to stop for a toilet break. But before we turned the camera back on, we were discussing about both my project page Healing Hearts and you guys Boomerang, and trying to build that following, and you're finding it difficult to sort of get sponsors or get notice or anything. It's because the audience on your page, similar to mine, is not yet that big.
So even things like just things down to like supplements, or we want to film and things like that, or the jerseys and stuff that we're wearing, or just general products like the foods and stuff we're taking in. Like, we're probably going to have to take some sort of like pre-packed meals and stuff in certain areas, because we won't be able to cook, for instance. But every sort of company I've messaged, emailed, they just look at our page and they're not really taking us serious. Even though we're doing such a massive thing, we're just not very serious. They don't think we're like, whatever, you've got 200 followers, I can go to this person over here, Chris Hemsworth or someone like that, with multi-million followers, and he can just drop a post and he'll raise like 10 million for me. So, Yeah, they're not. It's we want to get that support, but we have to go back to the social media thing of like just try to create content and build our page to then hopefully get the response that we need to then get sponsors and then raise enough money.
I think it's important with that, because for people that don't use social media, or maybe don't have to use it in the way that yourself or I or you guys use it in order to sort of build a following and a sort of business, I guess it can be really quite taxing, challenging. Not only for the time and effort you have to put in, but also sort of on the mental health aspect, because you spend so much time on it, and social media in itself can be quite detrimental to your mental health well-being.
I mean, you kind of find yourself, we haven't really started yet. I've been saying to Ben, like, I'm just trying to make some content, because I think I'm going to be taking a bit more experience with the social media, so I'm going to try and push that. But it's like you're waking up, you got to try and think of like a post, story post, Instagram post, TikToks. We've been talking about TikToks and stuff like that. Stuff that we wouldn't really, but it's just because we want to raise such a decent amount of money, we need that following to like get those donations, get the awareness about what we're actually doing as well. But it's like the posting during the day will affect my job at work.
Exactly.
Posting at night will affect maybe like
the training,
relationship and stuff like that.
Or the recovery from the day's training.
Exactly.
Mentally, like, you know, like I found with, for instance, the music industry, when I was doing a lot of social media and stuff like that, I was finding that it's hard to switch off at night. You know, I'm on my phone at night doing 100%. That last post, switch off, wake up in the middle of the night, I've got an idea, writing it down. You know what I mean? Like, but it's a negative, but it's also social media and the positive side of it. If we do build the following and we have the big support, we can raise more money.
Exactly.
And get this bigger, like, you know, what the big. As how big as we need it.
Because the target you guys were looking to hit, monetary wise, I believe you just mentioned again when we were off camera, it was 100 grand is what the target. That's what you want to hit.
And that's come from. I mean, that's come from the scale that we believe how hard this is going to be, and you know that there's no sniff at 100 grand. I mean, that's obviously an awful lot of money, and that's because, as I say, we think this is going to be harder. You know, the hardest thing that we've ever probably sat down to do.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
So that's where the figures come from. Now that's all dependent on, and what the hardest thing for me to get my head around, like I'm not involved in the social media thing like you guys have been in the past, and to see Jay sort of doing the grind of working on the social media stuff is like I find it hard to believe that that's the thing that you have to do, but it is, because I've seen it work in the past. I find that like that to me is the hard part. What we're actually doing in terms of the training and stuff, for me, is the hard part. The training and the actual doing the thing is the hard thing, and that's what I believe that people would buy into. But actually, it's everything from the outside. It's all the social media stuff.
Because people don't see behind the scenes. They'll just see you're doing this big, massive, mad challenge. You're training 5 days a week, but they don't consider all of the other stuff that goes along with that.
I mean, I can't get my head around that, because like I just think that what we're doing, when we first said that this is what we're going to do, I didn't even comprehend the effort and everything else that goes into this. Like, as far as I was concerned, I was going to sit on a bike and do it, obviously with training and all that sort of thing. I didn't even comprehend everything else. It was only when Jay said, look, we need to do this, that and the other, and I was like, I was like looked at him like sort of sideways. I was like, really? Like, you really think? And he's dead right, we do, and it's only because I've been like sort of shown and sort of proven that he's dead right, that this is what we have to do. And that to me is mind blowing. And I was so naive to that aspect that I'm glad that Jay's on board, because there is no way I'll be able to do it.
The scary thing is like as much as hard as this task is, some people were like, don't take it serious. I mean, we were talking to a couple of like people that wanted to do like a documentary type thing, you know, film and try and like, you know, make it pretty big into like a short film. But it's like one of the people was like, so you guys trying to break the record?
What's the record?
38 days.
38 days.
Are you guys trying to break the record? It's because like 50 days wasn't good enough. It wasn't appealing enough. It was like, oh, alright, now we don't want anything to do with you. Even though 50 days is hard going. Like,
how many kilometers a day is that? I think I calculated 285
285
a day. That's That's a lot of miles, man.
Yeah.
And people are turning their nose up at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 280 to 310.
Yeah, so depending on the time, like it's been broken down, but the average, you've got to averagely 285 a day. But the way I've sort of tried to track this and try to route plan this is that if you're doing a big day, so okay, as an example, when we get to Catherine in the Northern Territory, there's a place called Catherine. It's a tiny little town. From there, you either go left or you go right. We have to go right up to Darwin, get to Darwin, turn all the way back down and come back to Catherine. That one trip from Catherine up to Darwin is 315k.
It's a pointless trip.
And it's a pointless trip. You're not going any further along the route. You're actually just going up and back down, and that's just part of the route. There's a specific route and that's part of it. So to do that is 315k up, 315k back down.
Hills?
It's pretty flat, but even still, it's 315k.
Yeah.
So there's that, and you know,
in a hot area,
of the world. Yeah. So to do that, you know, I want to ideally you do that in a day up and a day back down to try and hit your sort of area. So then the next day or the next couple of days, you bring the Ks back down to around 250, 260 to try and sort of recover. So you know, like we're talking stupid numbers here. Like we're laughing at the fact that you're doing 260, but that should be to us 20k off your 25k off your day. It's a break. You have a chill day.
What would you both say? Separate answers to anyone that says that this can't be done.
Oh, we've had that already.
Have you?
We had that.
What do you say?
You go first. I'll go after.
Without being rude, like, we're gonna do it. Like this, there's no doubt in my mind that we're gonna do it. It's not just a physical thing. Like we are in such like a good headspace and positive headspace. Like we're gonna do it. And when we find a charity as well, that's just gonna kick it into like another gear. Like we're gonna do this. Like. This is going to be the big thing that I do in my life. Like, if we can help as many people as possible as well, like, that's just a massive bonus. But this is, we're going to do it.
Cool.
So, very early on in our training, we were advised to find a coach, which is obviously good advice. To find a very specific coach, we got in touch with said person, and after
through the shop, you should say.
Yeah, anyway, through certain people, and we were advised to sort of get in touch with this fella, and we sent him an email, and he got back to us and asked us for more information, and we told him, we said, look, we're two blokes who last time I was on a bike, I was 12 years old, so that I haven't been on a bike for a long time, and told him our background, we're breaking, we're falling apart, all this sort of stuff, and he came back to us with an essay of an email, and each paragraph was explaining as to why we couldn't do it and why we weren't going to be able to do it and why we're just going to break down and all that sort of stuff. Now, this guy's really experienced. I'm sure he's incredibly good at his job, and that's fantastic. But that's great, and he might be proven right. I highly doubt he's going to be proven right because I know how much we're going to do this. I know that I'm so determined to prove this guy wrong, that it's going to happen, that we're going to prove him wrong. Now, if you look back to examples of precedents of other people, there's different people around the world who have done things. I mean, one of them, Dean Stott, completed the Pan American Highway south of Argentina all the way up to the north of Canada in 100 days. Now,
how many K is that?
Something like 20,000 K. Oh no, it's 30,000. It's 30,000 K.
Okay.
Something like that. It's insane. It's an awful lot more than what we're doing. But he did this. A lot of his training was done on a bike, on a stationary bike. He was in the military. He couldn't run anymore because he's had shot knees. So he got on a bike and just did it and said, "Yeah, I'm just going to do it." So he did it. Now, if with the same category and the same sort of idea, if Dean Stott had turned around to this guy and said, "This is what I'm going to do," he's going to turn around to him and say, "Oh, you can't do it. This is going to happen. You're going to whatever." So in the same respect, and no disrespect to this person that we won't name, we are going to do this because we can. And once we finish, I'll be able to sit there and happily say, "Look, thank you very much for your support, but here's our route. This is how long it took us, and that's done."
Are either of you familiar with David Goggins?
Yeah, you know what? I was honestly just about to say that. Like, he's like one of my. It's so weird. It's so weird. I was just about to say, like, he's like one of my biggest inspirations. Like someone like that, where he was like, overweight and stuff like that, and he just goes out and does like these 210 miles.
Just about to say, people say you can't run more than a marathon, and he'll run 5 marathons, 6 marathons back to back, 280 miles.
I think I did a run early in the year, and I woke up in the morning, I was doing this trail run event, and I looked on, and he was on holiday somewhere, and his mate just happened to be doing a 200, something maybe like 300 mile run, and
it's crazy.
And he just jumped in. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm here. I'll just jump in."
Goggins, man, Goggins, crazy dude. But he proves that it can be done, man.
Yeah. There's so many of those precedents around. There's so many different things of people doing that sort of thing where you're like, okay, that's stupid, you can't do it, or blah blah blah. Like, why the hell not? Like,
why can't you?
I come back to Dean, and he said, yeah, okay, why not? Why can't you do that?
Yeah,
that's exactly the mentality that we've got to have. And I mean, I read that email. Me and Jay both read that email at night time.
I freaked out.
Yeah, so the next
that old anxious mind.
Honestly, I freaked out.
The next day,
I
rang Jay up and I text Jay and said, look, have you seen the email? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I have thoughts on it. Tell me your thoughts. Like, what do you think? And he came back, and he's like, and then I spoke to him. I rang him up the next day and said, look, okay, what's going on? He said, you could feel that he was, bothered about it. But to me, like, that message, that email was a huge driving force, and that's you turned around to using that, and that to me was huge. I could have, in my head, I was thinking, I want to go and do this tomorrow, because of
I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And that can't be the only motivation that we have. But at the time, and for a long time after, and still, it's a huge driving force. And each time I think about it, I'm like, I get back on that bike, I go again. I'm going to do another sprint. I've got to do. Okay, we've got 8 left. I'm going to do it again.
I'm not sure if you've heard of Ross Edgley.
Yeah.
He's what you would really call
He's just an ultra endurance athlete.
Yeah. So he swam completely around Great Britain. Like,
wow.
I think he's the first person to do this. Like, this guy's like
crazy.
He's done like triathlons with like log on his back, and this guy's like unbelievable. But a lot of people said to him,
can't be done.
You can't do it because of the way he looked. He's a big guy, like big bodybuilding guy, and he managed to swim right around Great Britain in I don't know how many months it was, out in that water every day, back in
freezing in that water,
freezing, jellyfish.
At one point he had a jellyfish like attached around his eye. He didn't even notice. His eye was all swollen.
Just focused, man. Just dead.
Get back in, sleep, eat, back out again, and he's doing that continuously every day. Someone like that is a massive inspiration, because like people were saying you can't do it. Your body physically, you're not a swimmer, but he changed that, and he researched, and he was like, well, actually, what the stories that I'm actually holding, I can use this as like as a positive. And he just did it. He had the right mindset, and he
it's all mindset, man.
Done it.
Goggins, prime example. I don't know if you remember. He talks about it in his videos and in his book. I haven't read the book, but he's running laps around this 400 meter track, and like I think it's like you just run for a couple of days, wherever, the way he just does mad stuff. And his feet were broken. He could feel his feet were broken halfway through, and then he still finished it. And he was laying in the bathtub with ice with his broken feet at the end, and I think he said he soiled himself in the bath as well and stuff, and he's just like, I did it. For that moment of that achievement, pushing through all of the shit and persevering. Achievement, I did it.
We've both said that we're probably going to be quite emotional during and at the end as well, because when we finish this, it's going to be like such a big
release.
We're dedicating like so much of our life to this. It's going to be.
But there's going to be times, we say all this, but there's going to be times, even in our training, where we're not going to want to. There's been times already where the last thing I want to do is walk down to the gym and jump on that bike. The last thing I want to do is, I know I've got a really tough session today. The last thing I want to go and do is sit on a bike.
You have to.
But you just keep going. You just don't. You've got to.
It's a higher purpose, really,
absolutely,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It goes
and that's
above and beyond.
Yeah,
just is exactly, absolutely, and that's what I keep telling myself about the whole weight loss thing and everything else, and that's it. And there's going to be days where Jay's really struggling, and I'm like, come on, mate, we just get through this. Or there's going to be days where I'm really struggling, and he's like, and there's going to be days when we're both really struggling. Dean can't be asked or whatever, and all three of us like, should we just can this? And it's those sort of days where you just got to keep going. You just put one foot in front of the other.
But like, since we started this, we're trying to like educate ourselves. Like I said, we're not cyclists, but we're trying to learn about people that have done similar things and learn a little bit more about what's going on. I mean, the Valley one you sent me.
So two guys,
vegan cyclists.
Yeah, vegan cyclists. Two guys cycled across Death Valley that, and again, shouldn't be possible. Can't really be doing it. They've got no right to have a bike on that sort of terrain or anything. And there's a video of them doing it, and they did it. And
one of them in particular, he was like really struggling one day, whereas the other guy was like pretty good, and he managed to pick himself up, and it was showing how like he was like bonking is the word they use in cycling, and he was like really struggling, but he managed to like have the right foods and get up and do it again and pull through it. And there's going to be days where like I might be struggling and Ben might be, and vice versa, but I think that's going to be the mindset as well, like just trying to push ourselves through and going back to the charity as well. Once we know who we're raising the money for and how the money's spent, that's just going to be like, right,
just keep Goggins on those days, just keep him stay hard.
I should really like contact Goggins and see if
I was actually going to say he probably should, because that's the kind of thing that he would get behind. 100%.
I contacted Dean Stott. We'll see.
Well, that's what it is, man. Just reach out and you never know. Don't get.
Exactly.
I just want to take it back really quickly there, just before we wrap up, about the body dysmorphia for men, because it's something that's came up several times as we've been talking throughout, and particularly because we've all came from a similar background. We've all been into bodybuilding at some point in our lives, and it's always been about looking big, lean, strong, being a man, because that's how men are meant to look. At least that's what you're told. So I think it's important to highlight, because again, I know a lot of my friends still have that sort of mindset that you need to be big and strong, and your whole sort of identity as a man is wrapped up in that. I guess, how have you sort of been managing to cope with the fact that you are losing all of this size and this idea that makes you a man, that you're now, because you're losing all this mass and strength? Do you sort of feel that affects your masculinity?
I don't know. I think it's because like a supportive girlfriend. Like I've said a few things about that. About worry about losing the weight and stuff like that. But kind of trying to. So, I mean, she's keeping me sort of focused. Where like this is way bigger than losing weight. You just like you've got this big task ahead. You need to focus on this training, get yourself healthy, eating the right things to make sure that you're performing, the recovery. So the losing the weight thing, I'm trying to push that aside. Like I don't think I really want to focus too much on the losing the weight and think of that bigger task. It's way bigger than anything like that. Do I feel less of a man? I mean, the only time I feel like that is when I'm back in the gym and me and Ben are on the bikes and we're watching people weightlift or do CrossFit or that. And I knew before this I was like starting to get into the weightlifting, and my technique was getting a little bit better, and my weight was going up, and I was like trying to get a bit more focused. And then obviously we're doing this bike ride and looking at people progressing and getting bigger and stronger, and like now I'm probably going back because I'm on the bike and like I'm watching people, like literally watching people a couple of meters away from me hitting PBs and stuff like that, and I'm like on the bike. So that's probably the only time I feel a little bit less of a man, because I just because weightlifting, lifting weights, bodybuilding has been such like a big part of my life. Same. Like now I'm not really doing it, and knowing that I'm not going to be doing it for the next 14-15 months is a big thing. And if I'll actually be able to go back into it after, like I want to go back to, maybe you won't want to, maybe you'll just be a Lance Armstrong cyclist now or something, without the drugs hopefully. But going back after it, like it's going to be weird. Like if we do go back into like weightlifting stuff, it's going to be better in strength. It's going to be starting from day one again.
Starting below scratch.
You'll be squatting a lot though. The leg strength.
I'm not sure about a lot, but reps. We'll be going for reps.
So I mean, it does play on my mind. Definitely plays on my mind, but it's just
one of those.
It's just one of those. It's way bigger than this.
I think I echo that. Like having a supportive girlfriend or a supportive partner is huge, and constantly, it's nice to hear, it's fine, you don't look any different or whatever. I think for me it's been a little harder, just because I've never done anything like, I've never done anything sort of endurance wise, as I say, to doing cardio for me is torture. So doing this every single day is really, really hard. But as Jay says, it's bigger than anything that any problem or issue that I have mentally or physically. It's bigger than that. Like I can push it aside to a point because of the end goal and the end task. And I've always said to Jay, and Jay's always said the same thing, like I want our training to be so hard, so tough. We've pushed ourselves to everything that when it comes to the actual 50 days, this comes to the days we set off, that's the easy part. Yeah, that's the downhill that you've done it. That's the end. That's essentially the last bit. One thing that we just sort of like that I have to sort of push behind that is the aesthetics of how you look. So that's just something that I've got to get over, and I was pre-warned about it. As I said earlier, I was pre-warned about it. Thought I understood, didn't. But it's just, as I say, this thing's bigger than anything.
You're probably really understanding that, like, there's positives from losing the weight for it. We'll be able to perform better. I mean, we'll have less internal fat. We're going to be a lot fitter from it. I mean, so we are going to heart health. Yeah, I mean, long term. I mean, that's another thing with a lot of men. They're dying of like heart attacks and stuff like that because they're not doing cardio. They're going to the gym and they just weights and stuff like that, and then all the machines, the running machines and stuff like that. And mostly women, the guys are just like, oh no, I don't need to do that. I'll do like a bit of a power walk or something like that,
Or I'll lift the weights faster.
Yeah, I'll lift the weights faster, or the beers faster.
But that all comes back. That all comes back to the sort of body dysmorphia that we were talking about previously. In that blokes have this tendency that for men, it's now become more prominent, this body dysmorphia sort of stuff, because it's it's all quite frontal. It's all on your social media. Yeah, exactly. For women, I think it's been more accepted that you care about your appearance more, whereas for blokes, it's less like your appearance doesn't matter because you're a man. That was for me. I think growing up, like in my head, it doesn't matter what you look like. You're a man. Who cares? Or you're putting something in your hair. Why? Like that's weird. You're putting gel in your hair. That's weird.
Now
it's definitely about your appearance as well, and I think social media has had a massive influence on that, and that's massively changed. Whereas it used to be about girls getting their nails done or whatever, it's now that's just as equal. Not getting the nails done maybe, but definitely there's equal measures of how men are perceived and how they look than they definitely used to be. That's from my experience anyway.
The reason I bring it up as well is because now, like, I don't go to the gym anymore because as soon as I step foot in a gym, it automatically takes me back to being 16, 17-year-old boy. It's like, I need to come in here and I need to just do bicep curls, triceps, squat. I need to get big, and if I see someone bigger and stronger than me, then I'm like, fuck, I'm not. I don't look as good as them, so I need to work harder and train harder. But now all I really do is like body weight. I do yoga and I do a lot of mobility stuff. I want to be free and mobile and physically strong, balanced, I guess.
It's actually what we need to do.
But the reason I bring it up is that even now, like, I've done a lot of work on myself over the past couple of years to break all of that down. But even now, like going to the beach or something, like, I'm not big, but I'm not fat. Like, I'm slim. But in my head, I still don't look good. Even though I don't have my belly anymore. I might not have a six pack.
You always comparing yourself. Yeah, I mean, like, somebody would be looking at you thinking,
I wish I could look like that.
I wish I could look like, you know what I mean? So, especially in Sydney, because there's like the weather here and stuff like that. Yeah, the beach culture. Everyone's like, there's a lot of influences here, and the certain gyms you go to, everyone looks like amazing, and you're kind of comparing yourself. But yeah, like, I feel like that comparison, trying to compare yourself, like, that's another thing where that stigma, that sort of needs to be removed, like, where people are like trying to compare themselves to everyone in their lives, and definitely another mental health thing there.
It's so easy to see though. Like, it's so easy to see. You can see it. You can spot it a mile off. Like, you can, like, for young kids, like, you can. It's so easy to understand. Okay, that they feel like crap because they've seen this person. They're doing this, that, and the other, and it's making them feel like crap. It's so easy to spot that, and I think it's hard to. It's easy to spot, but how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
Well, you don't let them on social media, but you can't really do that because it's
part
of life, isn't it?
We're men of coming up 30, 33 years old, and we still have that. You just talked about you can't go into the gym because of that. Like, that shouldn't be the way, but it is, and it's the same as I won't stop going to the gym. As soon as it's finished, I won't go back into the gym because it's just the way that we are now, and that, whether that's for comparison or ego or whatever, we're still blokes who are comparing ourselves to something else, rightly or wrongly, I don't know.
And that's important. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think for men to talk about that openly in this kind of format, it's important for other men to hear that, you know, yous are both quite big blokey looking blokes as well, you know, so it's important, you know, everyone feels that. People just don't talk about it, and that's stuff that we as men have to deal with, and it's one of those things, as you were saying earlier, find it hard to talk about because there's emotion to it, and it's a bit confronting, don't know how to say this, you know, so I think it's cool for anyone listening. I guess I just wanted them to hear that
definitely
we all feel this, you know.
We just need to be opening up, like as much as we're saying, like a bit cold at times, we just need to be opening up more and actually talking about these issues, because all these things build up to potential mental health problems, you know. And
then the worst end of the spectrum is what you were saying earlier. People end up taking their lives because they can't express it. So crazy. So I guess we'll probably wrap it up there. We've covered quite a lot, as we were just saying. So in terms of your project going forward, so it seems as though what you're actually needing here the most is whatever support people can give you, whether it's charities getting involved, sponsors to sort of provide assistance or training or fundraising events, or even the most important thing I think for actually both of our sort of projects here is the social media followers. So if anyone is listening, you know, jumping on, sharing this podcast or following the page or leaving a comment on any of the posts on either or page, you know, it just really, really massively helps that engagement. And with Instagram, the more people that talk in the post, the more it gets pushed up.
Sharing the posts and stuff like that as well. Our page is Boomerang Loot AU,
which we'll have a link to everything in the notes and on the posts as well for everyone.
So like anything like that, I mean, the followers and just general activity on our page will help us get support from sponsors, which will then help us with raising as much money as possible as well. So it's all got a knock-on effect, but hopefully a positive effect as well.
And also, I guess to just point out as well, if anyone wants to get involved with directly, you know, helping you in some way, shape or form, then I guess you're pretty much open to anything.
Obviously messages through the page or email.
Even just support, even just words of advice or things that they've maybe gone through in terms of maybe doing something similar or travel a certain part, and anything, even words of support or people who want to hammer us, it's fine. Either way, you know,
the more hammers the better, because it'll motivate you more.
But yeah, look, it's just things like, you know, the support really helps. So even if you just want to leave a comment on our page or send us an email saying, you know, wishing us luck or something like that, everything's great, and any interaction is fantastic, just so we know that people are trying to behind us. And you know, it's always nice to think of other people who are thinking of you whilst you're doing something hard. So
for sure. And Goggins, if you're listening, we would love you to get behind this in some way.
Tag Goggins, like
100%. Yes. And very last thing, boys, just going to ask you, like I said, just one quick fire question, just separate answer, and then we'll leave it there. What is masculinity to you?
Masculinity, alpha male.
Alpha male.
That's real hard. Masculinity to me is being wise, I think.
There you go. Two very different answers. Two very different people. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on, lad.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come here, and obviously for undertaking this project. Huge achievement. I hope he's hit it.
Thank you.
And with that, guys, as well, listeners, viewers, until next time, with peace, love and joy, we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.